Welcome to Ivy League Murders. On this podcast, we focus on cases affiliated with the Ivy League, exploring the darker side of higher education. What happens when genius becomes evil? My name is Sarah Alcorn. I'm a Harvard graduate, and I've been a private investigator since 1999. Join me and longtime crime diva Laura McDonald for Ivy League Murders.
Red Sox fans have longed to hear it. The Boston Red Sox are world champions.
Can you believe it?
It hasn't happened at Fenway Park for 95 years.
Fires. Swing and a miss. Strike three. It's over. The Red Sox have won the world championship.
Tune in to the newest show presented by Clovercrest Media. It's Obie's Backstop Podcast. Catch it twice a week, every Red Sox series finale on your favorite podcast platform.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to All Four Downs podcast presented by Clovercrest Media. You want to listen to all genres of podcasts, but by all means, visit clovercrestmedia.com. As on our show, we have Big Jason and Sean Scanlon. And once again, I am Ovi Muniz. Joe could not be with us at this moment in time. We're hoping he comes here because I know he has a lot on his mind when it comes to a certain individual in the Pac-12. But in the Pac-12's defense, you know, they're seeking for a new commissioner from the Pac-12. And if you guys missed it or not, back early February, it was announced that Larry Scott was going to step down as the Pac-12 commissioner. Now, a lot have speculated that there's been some money issues, a lot of overspending on their management and operation. But as more details has come through, it says here he was flawed in TV deals, officiating embarrassments, scheduling mistakes, and quote unquote, it does say basic error in management and operations. Now, give credit to Larry Scott for making the Pac-10 into a Pac-12 and made it competitive and actually receiving TV deals for that conference, but it just didn't pay out all the way, throughout his tenure. So, Sean, with all of it that's going on, with this new management that's happening in the Pac-12, could it be a possibility that this conference could finally, be competitive with the rest of the power conferences?
Yeah, I think it definitely will, because I know a lot of people had displeasure with Larry Scott, and I know that a lot of people are happy that he's gone. But obviously, we've seen that the Pac-12 has gotten some disrespect, especially in the college football playoff rankings. A lot of people people that do the rankings don't take them as seriously, even for the teams that are legit and have the undefeated records. So I think it will definitely help them. I think that now that he's out of there, I think that the TV deals will be better. Obviously, I think they'll get more exposure, and hopefully, they can schedule some good non-conference matchups with some of the bigger conferences, including like the SEC and Big 10 and Big 12 places like that. But I think this could only be good for the Pac-12. I think that, like I said, it gives them more exposure, and I think that it was a good move because I think they need some new progressive thinking, to run that and be the commissioner of the Pac-12, because I think that obviously they want, or the NCAA wants all Power 5 conferences, to have, great product on the field and, some good leadership off the field. So I think it's definitely a good move for the Pac-12.
I think since I've been covering college football through the podcast for the last couple of years, I've always been seeing that the Pac-12 doesn't receive that respect to be considered as one of the top 6 colleges. I know 2 years ago, Oregon came so close, or actually, mistakenly, Utah came so close, and they were in that window to be in the top 4, but they went and lost to Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. But more on that. But as far as for a new commissioner, it did state that they have at least 6 legitimate contenders to assume duty as the commissioner. There's no word or no saying as to when they will make that announcement. But if they do, or when they do, we're hoping that they could make that push and be competitive just like the SEC and the ACC. But speaking about them, let's look at the head coaches here. 12 head coaches. I highlighted 2 of them. These 2 is Oregon State, Jonathan Smith, who's entering his 4th season, as well as UCLA's head coach, Chip Kelly. Those 2 are on the hot seat because all 3 seasons that they have coached, they didn't live up the hype, as people say. They've been under 500, haven't gotten the ball rolling. And Sean, if you agree or disagree on this, I believe I'm knocking on the door 90%. I believe that Chip Kelly will not be the head coach if they don't have a winning season.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely need to do better than, what they've been doing in the past. Excuse me, but Chip Kelly is an offensive-minded head coach, so I think it's really on the offense. He has to get them rolling because they want to be competitive in the Pac-12, and Chip Kelly obviously has had some success with previous teams, including Oregon. So I think that he definitely wants to bring that culture back to UCLA, but I think time is definitely starting to run out a little bit. I think that he needs to get something done. And they definitely need to have a productive season, hopefully with a full schedule, getting away from the COVID year. I think that, he's going to try and obviously go out and contend for the Pac-12. So they definitely need a better season. And then for Oregon State, as long as I can remember, they haven't been a good football program. I'm not exactly sure what they need to do. But Jonathan Smith, I'm sure it's tough recruiting in a state like that where Oregon definitely gets the bulk of the players. I'm sure that it's just more appealing than it is Oregon's more appealing than Oregon State is, I think, right now. And I think it has to do with the history, especially what we've seen over the past, couple of years. So I think that they need to get it rolling. But I think that UCLA has definitely got a better shot to do that. But we'll definitely see. But I do agree that both these guys are on the hot seat right now.
Yeah, before the show, we were talking to Big J, who managed to, I guess, internet connection failure there. But we were talking about USC and how they were able to, so-called do so well and during this pandemic season. And my biggest argument is that out of the 6 games, there were a lot of close calls, a lot of games. I think 4 out of 6 games that they were trailing in the 4th quarter that could have been easily beaten due to the fact that the opposite team, the head coaches, they're not playing it right to close out the games. So I'm asking you, is USC going to be legitimate contenders this upcoming season?
I do think that they are. I think that bringing back the quarterback and Keaton Slovis, obviously, I get where your point with what you're saying. They were trailing in those games, but you also have to give them credit for coming back in those games. I think that obviously it was a little bit of a slow start for most of those games, but Keaton Slovis and the offense got it done in the 4th quarter when it matters most. And I think that they're going to bring a lot of talent back. And they made it to the championship game last year, and they were undefeated up to that point until getting beat by Oregon in a pretty bad performance. But I actually like their head coach and Clay Helton. I think that he's done a pretty good job in his tenure there. And obviously USC is a great destination to go to for, some of these college athletes. It's obviously a great campus down in LA and just the culture and tradition that they have. So I think that USC is slowly starting to build up back to that, program that they had. And I do see them as one of the favorites this year. I think that Some of the other teams that might be up there is Arizona State with, what Herm Edwards is doing. He's starting to get most of his recruits in. And I think that Oregon, their quarterback from last year, Tyler Show, is ended up transferring. So I think there's definitely a spot to come in, and lead the Pac-12. So I think I think USC will get it done this year. I think that they have a lot of talent coming back, and like I said, I like the head coach. So I think that they definitely will turn it around. And I think they're probably pissed off about what happened in the Pac-12 championship game. So I think they will bounce back after that.
I'm pissed off. I think more of it being pissed off overall as a conference for not representing the bowl games through the postseason, and which also led for Scott to step down as the commissioner. But with that and all, let me go back real quick. I'm looking forward for Arizona State, Herm Edwards, myself, to lead his team. I think they have a greater chance amongst the rest of these teams here. Washington is always competitive. I'm expecting Utah to bounce back and represent like they did 2 years ago when they came so close to making it as one of the top schools, like the top four. But because they had lost their previous game, they were pretty much taken out of the equation. But also, Arizona has a brand new coach from formerly known from New England, quarterback coach Jed Fish. It's interesting to see what he provides on the table for Arizona. Again, they do have some talent. Let's just see if he's able to drive that team to success. But hey, interesting schedule here. Non-conference. Again, those that are that don't have a data is not set in stone yet, as I call it. But there are sites that say that there are not conferences for games for every team. But what's intriguing right now is Stanford. Stanford is playing some 3 quality colleges. Now, you say Kansas State is not that all that or whatever it is. They are a first half type of school, but at the end of the season, they find their ways to choke themselves out. Vanderbilt, it became winless last year and previously as well. Could they bounce back with their new head coach? And of course, there's Notre Dame, which are they going to have new faces on the playing field. But also, we're going to see the rivalry of USC versus Notre Dame. That's got to be pretty awesome. But Colorado's trying to make some noise as well. They play Texas A&M and Minnesota. So out of these colleges, and I'm not including the conference games because, of course, they're going to play conference games. 12 full games. And Jace, welcome back. Mm-hmm. Who is your top 2 teams that's going to represent for the Pac-12 championship?
It's really, really tough to do this, but I think out of the North, I'm gonna go Oregon, even though it's really, really hard for me to do that. Tyler Shaw, as Sean mentioned earlier, moved on. He transferred out of there. They still do have some solid weapons, but the defense is going to be interesting because they have a lot of people moving from the defense to the draft, as well as also losing their coach to the defensive coordinator to Boise State, which is rough. But so I still like them to take it. I know Washington's going to be nipping at their heels, but I like Oregon to stand out there. But I know I like USC, but I'm going to go Arizona State. I like Herm Edwards. I like what Antonio Pierce is doing with that defense. And they have a lot of returning guys. I spoke highly of Jaden Daniels coming into last year for them. I think he will have a breakout and possible Heisman contending year this year for Arizona State, and I like that defense. But I do think Utah will be competitive with their transfers for Charlie Brewer from Baylor and Jaquindon Jackson from Texas battling it out for QB. And then they also have some solid transfer running backs with TJ Pledger from Oklahoma and Chris Curry from LSU. So they should be interesting. I'm really interested to see how the South plays out. But right now, I think in the title game, it's going to be Oregon versus Arizona State.
All right. What you got, Sean?
Right now, I think, obviously it's tough to tell. this far ahead of or before the season, but I think it's going to be a rematch from last year. I'm going to go with Oregon and USC. I just think that USC will bring back a lot of talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I think really highly of Keaton Slovis, their quarterback. I think that he's going to be a stud, and he might. I agree with Jaden Daniels' pick, but I think that Keaton Slovis might be up there having a Heisman year too. So I like USC a lot, and then Oregon. It's I think that they might regress a little bit this year, but I just don't see anyone else in the Pac-12 North right now. We were talking before the show, but Stanford, I think that David Shaw, I think that as a coach, he's a little outdated in his offense. And ever since his stars left, like Christian McCaffrey and Bryce Love, I think that it hasn't been the same. And obviously they struggled the past 2 seasons, so I don't see them contending. Washington might be up there. They're always pretty good, but I just think that Oregon will lead the way in the Pac-12 North. So I would go with the rematch of last year, but I would say that I think that USC would end up winning the rematch for this one. But who would you have, Ovi?
Well, I mean, I love defense, and I know a lot of people don't talk about defense in college football. It's tough, especially in the Pac-12. But then again, they're not the Big 12. But if it was up to me, I'm leaning more this time around with Washington Huskies in the North. I think they have a better defense than Oregon. And there's just a lot of transfers going on, and the transfers just keep going. So they want to be surprised if some transfer lands in Washington and end up being the starter quarterback for Washington Huskies. But as of right now, I'm leaning to the Washington Huskies to be there. As far as the South, man, if Utah could be the same way they were a couple years ago with that awesome defense, I would have chose them. But I have to lean over with Arizona State. They provided a great offense and defense. They were limited to only 4 games. We couldn't see everything what Arizona State has to offer. So I'm leaning forward on this one, that Arizona State versus Washington in the Pac-12. And I know I'm asking for much, but I'm hoping that Arizona State becomes the Pac-12 champion. I really do.
I wouldn't be mad. I'd like that.
But of what I saw last year, and I will be hating, somehow, some way, USC might get another miracle and have their way there. So again, there's 4 out of those 6 games that USC could have finished, and they could have been easily 2-4 that they managed to have a good record. So, but hey, as long as we have to find out exactly what's going on with the position for the commissioner, then we can see how everything else is going to play out, not only for the college football, but for the rest of the sports for the Pac-12. So, but hey, we got the draft coming up, and that happens at the last week of April. And so I'm going to throw a curveball at y'all. There are a lot of quarterbacks trades. I guess this is the NFL quarterback carousel. Oh, if I'm saying that right. Carousel, right? But we've been mentioning Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, who else? Kyle Trask. We were naming them, but we've Jace. I'm gonna start with you because you love to do mock drafts. With all these changes now, where do you see these quarterbacks going to now? Are they potentially now all of them first rounders or very few? I mean, what's going on? What's your opinion on this?
From the way things are going right now, a lot of them are first rounders. I think obviously Lawrence, Fields, Wilson, and Lance right there, they're going to be up there in the upper half of the draft. And then that is going to leave Mac Jones. I think there are a lot of teams that need a QB, so he's going to end up being the first round as well. I think Kyle Trask is going to be the guy that might bounce into the second round. Maybe a team like the Steelers or the Saints who have these old guys as QBs and might need something new, might get a Kyle Trask and hold on to him for a little bit, but I think Mac Jones is going to be the cutoff for the first round at least.
All right, I see. Sean was yawning and stuff. I think he was bored. He even froze with the yawn. So, what you got, Sean? What's your prediction?
Yeah, I think there's, like Jason was saying, I think there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks going into this offseason. So I definitely think that there will be 5 first-round quarterbacks I could see. Obviously, the 3 at the top with Lawrence, Fields, and Wilson, and then I think Trey Lance and Mac Jones will both go in the first round. I'm sure that Mac Jones might be more of a development piece for a team that. Like Jason was saying, for that has an older QB, and to bring him in and kind of groom him behind him. But I think it's pretty loaded if you look at it for the QB position. Obviously, the last couple of years we've seen some drafts with a lot of first rounders, but I think this might be equal to what we saw a couple of years ago, the draft with Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson, Sam Darnold. I think that there's definitely a chance that 5 QBs go because there's definitely going to be a lot of QB movement, and I think that most of these guys are pretty talented. So I think that there's definitely going to be a lot of QBs drafted in the first round. So, but I do agree. I think Kyle Trask might be not even just a second round pick. I think he might fall even a little bit more like that. I think he might be down with the guys like Ian Book and Sam Ellinger. At least from what I've been reading, I think that. But I think Kyle Trask would be a good risk to take, if you want to develop a QB in some of the later rounds. I think that, obviously he proved himself at Florida. He had a great year up until the last couple of rough games. He was up there for the Heisman, up there as a Heisman candidate. So I think that there's definitely a lot of QB talent, and I'm sure that we're going to see a lot of them come off the board pretty early, especially in the first day.
Definitely going to be interesting, and I don't think that anything's going to cease when it comes to these trades going on. We saw it in the quarterbacks. Let's see if there are other positions going to be affected as well with this draft going on. And it will be happening the last week of April. One more question before we move on for next week's. It was interesting because, again, we would have been hitting our week 3 of the XFL in this time frame right now. And it's sadly enough that we have to wait for another year for the XFL, and I'm anticipating for that arrival. But there's some rumor out there. Could we see Tim Tebow as a starting quarterback in the XFL? What's your take, Sean?
I know that he just retired from baseball, and I would lean towards no right now. I think that, he has the job with ESPN as an analyst for college football. So I think that he might be just wanting, to put sports behind him and move on to his analyst career. But you never know. Maybe he thinks he's got one last run at it. Obviously, we haven't seen him play football in quite some time. But obviously, for a college football show like this, he had a great college football career. And after that, he had some moments in the NFL with the Broncos game when he beat the Steelers in the playoffs, but then it kind of dipped off after that. But knowing Tim Tebow, though, he is a competitor, so I definitely wouldn't put it behind him. I think that there might be a chance, and that'd definitely be a good get for the XFL for some exposure in their first season back after the delay. The Rock purchasing it, I'm sure that he was going to want some big star names, to bring the XFL back in the light. So, it's definitely a possibility, but I do think that he's going to put the football career behind him. But what are your thoughts on that, Jace?
Oh, hell yeah. Give me it. Give me Tim Tebow. His first true love was football. And I'm the host of Throwing Jabs. So look at fighting. Look at someone like a Daniel Cormier or Paul Felder. They go, they have their fights, and then a couple weeks later they'll be on the mic commentating the fight. Well, why can't Tim Tebow? There's no real overlap between college football and XFL. So why can't, during the days, he's talking some crap on ESPN, and then he goes onto the field every spring and balls out for hopefully New York Guardians or something. But let's go. I'm in. Let's get Johnny Manziel. Let's get Andrew Luck. Let's get them all. Let's bring
Johnny Manziel, huh?
Stars. Yeah, he's playing.
Johnny Manziel. If that's money, okay, I guess so.
Money
but hey,
Manziel.
Tim Tebow's 33 years old, and as we all learn that like Tom Brady, 43 and still kicking it. maybe Tim Tebow has that itch and come back to the playing field. I mean, look, he'll help better elevate. And look, I never doubted him as a quarterback, but many people did. He just had a different style of playing that position. So look at the Baltimore Ravens with Jackson. He's a mobile threat quarterback, right? Yep. So he could throw and he could run. So I mean, it worked well with Florida when he was in college, right? Why couldn't it work in another league? So I'll be all in for Tim Tebow to be in the XFL. I really do. But hey, XFL news will be coming up because things are willing up because we are exactly a little bit less than a year away for the opening of the XFL. And what does that mean? We're going to have probably some coaches. I know they're looking for a new commissioner in the XFL to be in the forefront. There's a lot of news that's coming, and it's slowly creeping up. So I just can't wait to see and hear all the excitement. Hopefully it'll be someone that we know, like the Guardians. We had the head coach. What's his name? What was his name from the Guardians head coach? Former offensive coordinator from the New York Giants.
Oh, Kevin Gilbride?
Yes. Who led the way along with Tom Coughlin and made Eli Manning the great quarterback that he is. But there's so much that's going on. It's willing up, and I just can't wait. And we're definitely going to be on top of it here on All Four Downs, the original XFL media coverage. That's right, All Four Downs. But more college football later on. We're probably going to be discussing more likely which teams will be in the top 25. Yes, that is the topic. And I know Jay's probably going to have BYU or Utah at number 2.
Yeah.
He's wearing a shirt. So
why
not? But anyways, thank you for watching. On behalf of Sean and Jace, we'll miss you, Joe. Hope you come back next week. I'm Over Muniz. Thank you for listening to All Four Downs.